Good morning. We are on a trek, and it's my life's trek. It's an autobiography, and it all started down here in the lower left corner in Reading, Pennsylvania, at the Reading Hospital. We'll get into that. And then first 6 years of my life, from 1937 to 1943, we lived there. And then my dad got a job up in Northampton, which is just above Springfield here, right where the little arrow is at the top of that thing. If I move it, we won't see Reading. So I got this little course line because after Northampton, I get to live in Northampton for 6 years, and then I'm 12. And at 12, we moved to Summit, New Jersey. So that's Summit, New Jersey. So we can pass right over there, because I want to go along the Long Island Sound. And we had summer homes, which one was the summer home of my grandparents, was Fairfield Beach, right along in here, and Bridgeport is right there. So it's just before Bridgeport. I can pick it out pretty well without having a course to get there. I can check it out from the shoreline. And then we go on over here, and on the way over here, and we also, there at Fairfield, just before, Fairfield's just before Bridgeport. And what's famous about Bridgeport is Sikorsky invented the helicopter. So the Bridgeport Airport is called Sikorsky Memorial. Then we go by New Haven. New Haven's along in here, probably right there is New Haven. That's where Yale is. Then out along here, the Connecticut River goes up and goes through Hartford, Connecticut, Springfield, Massachusetts, and then Northampton. But once we see Hartford, we'll start making the turn here, and we're moving along at Mach 2 in the F-15, and so turning to go north takes a little time, and we take a little space on that, but we'll be able to look out. In 1949 and 1950, the summers we had spent just as the camp family, mother, father, sister, brother, and we had a little house on the ocean there in Grove Beach, which was real close to Clinton, Connecticut. And we'll see if we spot that, and then we go on up. But that was again 48, 49, and 50. So that's a little past what we're covering here. We're covering just the first 6 years, and then how we got to the second 6 years. And we'll point out a few things along the way. That's enough of that. Thanks for listening and bearing with me. A little sailplane. Maybe in the Alps. Probably in the Alps. We don't have mountains quite like that in the Sierras, or the Rockies don't look like that. So that takes a little time. We're booting up.
Tower strike 9er, 0 ready for east departure at runway 13.
Then we gotta
Strike 9er, 0 wind calm, east departure approved.
Gotta go ready to fly, and we bring this down and change the time so it's daylight. We don't want to do this in the dark. We'll put it right about noon. That's the sun is highest in the air, so we'll be able to see what we're looking for. And hopefully we can just come out here and take a right to downtown Reading, where my dad probably went to work. And we'll take the brakes off and we'll get going. Start telling you about what happened in Reading. What I can remember isn't very much. Gear up, flaps up, make a right turn, and we'll follow the Schuylkill River.
Strike 9er, leaving my airspace frequency change approved.
We'll say goodbye to them. And acknowledge that.
Tower strike 9er, 0 frequency change.
Pull the power back. And we have to look over this way. We're going to stop right there. And we'll look back here at the Reading Hospital. Is right there. I was born in the Reading Hospital. That was in 1937, May 27, 1937. Taylor Swift was born there, her brother, and then a guy from Pennsylvania, now senator, and that's John Fetterman was born there. And then out in here, I have to look across. Okay, right here it says Penske Repairs, and you know Penske has the rental trucks, and I think he owns Indianapolis Speedway. Big Penske Racing is big, and they used to build cars here. And the Schuylkill River floods, and they expected a 4-foot flood. They put all the equipment up on benches. I don't know what they did with the cars, but they got them up on trailers or got them to high ground. They could move the cars. They got wheels. And anyway, flooded. I got to go by there with Mark Donahue's ex-wife and my friend Phil. Phil was a closer friend of Mark Donahue. Mark and Penske got together. This is later on. This is not. I didn't know Penske back in '37 or until we moved in '43. It's just to show off that I knew about this and visited this location. Probably 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, and it had flooded, so there weren't any cars in the garage where they built some of their race cars. Anyway, they moved that operation probably down to North Carolina, somewhere down in there. My dad's office was probably over here for a company that made sunglasses, Wilson Night Goggles. And then we're gonna turn around and go back. Actually, we can do it from right here. This is our house that we lived in, was a rental property duplex, and I'll use this to make a picture. I'm gonna have to do a lot of editing to this, and I'll do it before it goes up to YouTube, and I'll have a copy of it. So I'm gonna put this up to YouTube for you to see, possibly. And at some point my autobiography will be on YouTube. But anyway, our first house was there. I'll be putting pictures in there, pictures of me and my sister and brother. And then the high school looks like high school with a track down in here. And so I went to kindergarten probably somewhere over in here. The only thing I remember about that is my chocolate milk that I got just before break. And I also remember steam engines going along the railroad tracks here. And there was a bakery that did pretzels. Now they have a bakery in maybe the same building. It's called Do-Si-Do. So you can't see very much. As you see, you get close. These houses aren't exactly what they look like. This is not Google Earth. This is Bing Pictures, and it does okay for this flight simulator. But okay, that's all we need to know about Reading. There's Reading, and this is called West Reading, and then this neighborhood over here is called Wyomissing. And that's where my first 6 years were over there. Now here we go. We're going to get going and go to the east, full power, and head for Summit, New Jersey. And again, Summit is where we hit when I was 12 years old. We just went through the sound barrier, so you don't have to hear all the noise. And we went by where we're supposed to go and put it on the tail so we can see where we're going. We can look back once toward Reading and Wyomissing. It's right back in there. And we are heading for, when the sun is in the south, we have to head east. Our course is off to the left. get over here so you don't have to hear all the noise of the jet. So this probably took this trip to Northampton for my folks. Of course, we took trips to Fairfield Beach in Connecticut, and we'll fly by Fairfield Beach. So there's pictures I have of us with my cousins, aunts, and uncles, and grandparents, and we have that around Fairfield Beach. Pottstown, I can remember Pottstown. I can't remember ever going to Pottstown. It's probably the Schuylkill River going through there too. I don't know that for sure. And the course is a little bit to our left, so anyway, we're at 14,000 feet. We'll get to summit in about less than 10 minutes. And I use this F-15 because it's quick. These U-tubes, you gotta keep them. You should keep them around 15 minutes. This one will run about 25 to 30 minutes. I talked a little longer in the beginning, so it'll probably run close to 30 minutes. And we can look on here and see how we're doing it with our course with Summit, because looking in this area to find Summit would be a little difficult. So we're halfway to Summit. You can see Summit here, right at the end of the line there. That's Morristown Airport. I flew in and out of there many times, and we'll just keep going. We have to go to the left a little more to hit that. See, we're just paralleling the course, so we have to go left a little bit. I don't Vasant, Van Sant, Hodge Farm. Don't know anything about those. Don't know anything about this river. I still have a little phlegm. Side effect. But I'm feeling good. Here we're getting up to 18,000 feet. We'll go left a little more, so we can see Summit when we go by, because that's my high school years. I had lots of friends and lots of things to do and lots of things to remember in the 6 years we lived in Summit, that I lived in Summit. We moved to California in 1958. Now this, while we're moving here, is like 1943. During the Second World War, we moved to Northampton. So we're hitting on this pretty good. Let's move this around so we see. Now we can see the New York shoreline. This is probably New Jersey over there. And we're 22,000, that's good. So this highway, I can't remember the freeways back then, but anyway, we'll take a quick stop and see if we spot Summit. It's going to be off to our left. It's going to be right in here. And I can see the golf course. We're going to go right over Summit. So we'll just stop for a second and tell you a little bit. Here's the Canoebrook Country Club. Morrison Essex Turnpike possibly is the name of that road that goes to Chatham. Goes out to Chatham. I think this is the high school now. It's right out there. High school used to be downtown in Summit, and we used to live up along the ridge. Let's get that out of the way. So you don't need to answer any unknown caller. And anyway, so that's Summit. We'll get back to that. We maybe have a little story about about the Canoe Brook, and I believe we live almost under the airplane. Let's see if we see the field. Okay, see, here's Memorial Field right there. Now we can turn this off because we don't have to look at that. So Memorial Field was right there, and at the top of Memorial Field, right up along here, is where we lived. This was Watchung Reservation back here. So if our houses were, you see a few houses. So we may have lived right there was where our house is on Oak Ridge. Oak Ridge. That was a ridge up in there. Huh. We got to see that. Okay, back to turning it back on. This is going to run a little more than 30 minutes. And we need to be heading east, and we'll look for here's Newark Airport. I flew in and out of Newark Airport a few times, picking up my friends when I was flying Air Chance. Here's Newark, downtown Newark, and then we'll look for Manhattan, which I can see coming up right over here is Manhattan. And I forget what the stadium is for the football, but possibly we'll fly close to that. Yeah, we're back down to 9,000 feet, which is okay. And we'll head back up. And let's see if we see the stadium. Right, there's the stadium right there that the Giants play in New Jersey. The Giants play in New Jersey. Giants and the Jets. New York Giants and New York Jets. This is the Hudson River right here. And if we look closely at these we'd see the World Trade Center, but we're not down low enough to get the skyline. This is the East River. The Brooklyn Bridge goes right across there. The Statue of Liberty is right there. And we'll go by LaGuardia, which is right in there. And the Bronx, and where the New York Yankees Stadium is right in there. So we're going to head over here to the Long Island Sound. And we'll see here is LaGuardia. And by LaGuardia is going to be over right in here is probably the Bronx is right in here. That's over by Queens. The little airport I flew in and out of is right in here. Flushing Meadows. We used to go. That airport doesn't exist. That might be the Whitestone Bridge there. And then the Hutchinson River Parkway, we'd pick up the Hutchinson River Parkway. This is probably 95, but the Hutchinson River Parkway might be up there, and that ran into the Merritt Parkway, and that's how we got to Fairfield Beach. Now I got to start watching for Fairfield Beach, so we'll get a little closer. And Westchester County Airport, right there. And then we'll watch for Bridgeport. And we're going to keep an eye out for what looks like the shoreline for yeah, this may be it right there. I'm not sure. And when we see when we see we're not quite there yet. The Sikorsky Field. There's Westport. We should see Bridgeport here, Southport. Then we're going to see Bridgeport. That's Bridgeport. So right in here, there's Fairfield, right there. Right below us. So we we had a house. The family summer home was right along in here on Fairfield Beach. I can remember this little creek. We called it the creek that went in behind there. It was navigable for small boats. So that's Fairfield Beach, and then here's Sikorsky Memorial Field at Bridgeport, where he developed the helicopter. He was Russian. He maybe built the first 4-engine aircraft, and they were something to behold. When you look back there, they had a conventional landing gear. They were not tricycle landing gear. They had a tail wheel. So now we're looking at New Haven. It is going to be right in here. You see New Haven, and these are just the simulator can be programmed. So these little things pop up. If obviously you don't see stuff like that when you're flying in a real airplane, but they're handy. So I can be pointing things out. You can say, well, does he really know? So that's New Haven, and that's where Yale University is. And then we're going to be watching here for the Connecticut River. But before we see the Connecticut River, we're going to look on here and we'll see Hartford up to our left. And we want to head up to Hartford. So there's Hartford up there. So we want to start a left turn. And then we'll look out here and we'll spot the Connecticut River. But the Connecticut River goes in here. And we'll spot right along, possibly right in there, is Clinton, Connecticut, and Grove Beach is right in there. Now I'm going to look here, see if I can get this a little bit lighter. No, that's as light as it's going to get. So it's a hazy day, and we're heading up toward Hartford. So we want to put this on so we see that we're heading for Hartford. There's Hartford right there. Here's the Connecticut River coming up. We can look back down to where it goes in there. Maybe we're a little closer to Clinton. Right along in here was where Clinton, Grove Beach was right in there. Okay, and then we're going to head right up the Connecticut River, go by Hartford. We'll notice when we do that. Yeah, we don't need this anymore because we got the Connecticut River to navigate. We call that dead reckoning, when you look down and see the ground and know where you are. Dead reckoning. When I was learning to fly, that concerned me a little bit. Look, we're back up to 20,000 feet. So this is going to be Hartford, right in here, and then we go on up. And we'll see some other cities as we go up the Connecticut River. This should say Hartford somewhere. It's not going to work. We're not low enough to trigger those things. You'll just have to take my word for it that that's Hartford. That's the insurance capital. I think that's what they call it. Then when we get up here, see now we're heading north. Anyway, Bradley Field. That I may be still in Connecticut. It might be, but then the next thing is going to be Westover Field. But I can remember Bradley Field, and whether there were signs from the they were not quite to Springfield yet, but we'll see Springfield, and also this is Westover Field, which is an Air Force base. So here's Ag 1 and Springfield. So this was Springfield in here. Springfield is where they invented basketball. Here's the Air Force base, Bradley Westover Field, right there, and then the river starts taking little crooks and dances around a little bit. Get up here, and we're going to see Holyoke. Here's Northampton right there, so we can back off on the power. Should start dropping down. It already started dropping down. I think I said once that I'd never been on the Connecticut River, but one of my friends, when we get to doing the full thing, and we'll do it in a Piper Cub, that we will fly along the Connecticut River and show you a Garwood speedboat. It's all wood like a Chris Craft, and we got to start putting the wheels down. We'll put the air brake away, flaps down, gear down, get rid of that, and we're going to land at Northampton. So Northampton is right in there. That's the airport that you're talking about right there. So we're going to land right along the Connecticut River, and we got the flaps down, we got the wheels down, and we got to get it down to about 140. So we'll just wigwag here for a second. And come around and land at Northampton. So I believe the Cub, the first airplane I flew in was a Piper Cub, and I believe that was probably out of this airport. And then my dad's company up here, Pro Brush Company, I believe that was a Lockheed Lodestar. That was the airplane they made in 47 and 48. And we probably took off at this airport, flew down to LaGuardia. Oop, truck. That truck threw me for a loop. A very small field here. We're in Northampton. Isn't that funny? I've practiced this a few times, so I never saw any traffic on that road. I think the airplane acted like it hit the truck. I think I hit the truck. Anyway, you can get away with that here in a simulator. In a real airplane, you can't get away with that. Of course, if I was flying real airplanes, I'd probably just be limited to flying a Cub at this point. So I had more friends. You've heard pretty much all I can recall about Reading, and then of course I elaborate, telling you about Taylor Swift and John Fetterman being born in the same hospital. The hospital was not the size that it was when we flew over it. And here we're going to see lots. We'll be using the Piper Cub when we do the flyover of Northampton and fly up to my dad's office in Florence, the next town up to the north, a little bit northeast. And here we want to go right here and shut down. Here we go. And yesterday I clicked the brake when I was practicing. Here's the canopy, and there's the indication for downtown Northampton, 2.4 miles away, and that would be kind of up to the north, a little bit northeast. Be up there, not quite due north, is probably a little more off to the right. So we'll go downtown there, and that's enough. We probably went over 30 minutes, but we'll see how it looks when we put it up on YouTube. We can show you that without all the editing. That's what I liked about this, is I didn't have to do any editing, but it looks like for my autobiography I'm going to have to get into that business, so I'm going to Apple School on tomorrow afternoon, start learning about editing. Thanks for riding along in my unedited versions, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.